Comic Fam? I'm Mike. Today we have the pleasure to sit down with the homie Derron Flood. Derron is an active contributor to the Black community with quite possibly the greatest Black Panther collection I've ever seen. What's going on, bro?
Hey, man. I'm happy to be here. It's an honor.
That's what's good. All right, man. So we're going to get right into it. I'd like to start out by asking you, so what initially got you into the hobby?
We're around the same age. I think that I speak for most all people in their 30s and 40s. X-Men, the animated series, Batman, the animated series, like that whole push for like the transition from comics to animation in the early 90s, man, it just piqued my curiosity. As you know, seasons were very short, and in between seasons, you just sit around, literally sitting on your hands, just waiting for the next season, and you got to, just really deal with a bunch of reruns, and I got tired of it. So I reached into source material to kind of figure out what's next or who's who, and that's where it led me into comics.
So when you first got into comics, was there any particular niche you got into? I mean, you got your X-Men's out there, all the big names and stuff like that. What kind of comics did you draw to at first?
And again, I think I speak for most all people around my age group, man. It was the X-Men. Like literally, I didn't want anything other than X-Men comic books, whether it's Uncanny, whether it was Jim Lee's regular X-Men title or X-Factor, just anything that was X-related was pretty much my go-to in the 90s.
Understandable. I can agree to that. Mine was pretty much the same. Let me ask you, as you transitioned, went on to college, got a little older, did you stay in the hobby? Did your collecting habits change a little bit? How did that go for you?
So a little bit of all of what you said. It actually stopped before college. When I really got into athletics in high school, like seriously, that's when I kind of put comics off to the side and just really focused on, school and athletics. And that went well over until I finished up with college. And, when you're an adult, you kind of reach back and, you're adulting and you don't have the same things that, the friends, the partying and all of that. And so you kind of figure out, especially when you're out here on your own, hey, man, what makes me happy? And I just put my hand back into my past, man. And I said, comics is something that makes me happy. And so I also changed a lot between, being a kid and becoming an adult. What was important, what wasn't important, what was entertaining, what wasn't entertaining. And that's when I really started switching my collecting habits. I actually started right back into X-Men again because, again, that's what I knew. But there was a cultural component that was missing. And I started collecting specifically, intentionally, Black comic books at around 2010. And I haven't turned back since.
Okay. So why exactly Black comics? I mean, we're flooded with all the big names that's out there, the big DCs, the Supermans, the Batmans, of course. Why Black comics?
Again, just understanding how important culture is for me, specifically Blackness. It's something that I felt like has always been misrepresented, and what we know about misrepresentation or not even being developed, that stuff it needs attention, right? If you want something to change, you have to give it attention. It needs resources and things like that. So I was just like, look, man, if I want Black heroes, Black creators to flourish, not only do I need to put my money behind it, but I actually need to talk about it to other people, so it can be important to them too. And I'm not going to say that I'm responsible for a lot of these Facebook groups, but I am.
Hey, that's good though, because actually, I mean, being in these spaces has actually, me and you met in these spaces, and it brought me a lot of friends out here that I never would have met just in normal life. So, I mean, shout out to the internet, shout out to the Blair Corps, and all the other Facebook groups out there that has pretty much brought us together. So,
right.
One thing I want to get into is I've seen folks refer to you as Mr. 9.8. So can you explain to the people out there kind of what that means? What's the joke about it? And what is actually a 9.8?
So there's an investment side to comic book collecting, or just any collectible. And what we know about collectibles or anything that's in tangible investments, the condition matters when it comes to like the investment side. And what I've noticed is that, especially with new comic books, it's a really easy entry point for somebody who's new to get a pristine condition comic book, which represents the 9.8. And before I started getting into Bronze Age, Silver Age, and Golden Age now, that's something that I wanted to do because I saw the investment side to it. And then there was also a big drop off in actual value, monetary value from 9.8s to 9.6. So at the time, it was just like, look, if I'm gonna spend $100 on a comic book that might be a Bronze Age comic book, it's a 5.5, and I know that there's a lot of upside with even modern books now because the hobby is growing more now than it's been in a long time. Just stick with the modern stuff, and then I can have 3 or 4 of them as opposed to, one Bronze Age book. So that's where my thought process was, and it really paid off big time.
Understandable. So basically, what you're saying is, it's important to go after big historical books, but also attaining them in like the best condition possible.
Absolutely. If you're into the investment side. So for me, it's 2 things. I actually love the hobby. I love the idea of having a collectible in pristine condition. And then the other side is it's worth a lot.
So at this day and age, you go after the historical books, you go after, best condition possible. Is there any particular characters that you try to seek after? Is it still X-Men? Like, what's your niche today?
So everybody knows it's Black Panther. I've had a few goals that has been consistent since I got back into comic books. One that's obviously what we talked about, finding the highest condition or grade possible in whatever book that I'm interested in, but also to accumulate the greatest Black Panther comic book collection of all time that anybody's ever seen. And I prioritize that from multiple copies of Fantastic Four 52, which is the first appearance of Black Panther, to all of the extremely scarce books and everything in between. I even have a lot of people that are in the industry that I've had done commissions that actually worked on the book or hasn't worked on the book, that I just thought that it had a stylish, artsy side, and I just wanted them to, have their iteration of the character. So like just any and all things Black Panther from the comic side, and I've kind of diversified that as well. I've gotten into cards, original art, just anything that's related to the character.
You mentioned commissions. Can you give a brief description, kind of what that is for any newcomers out here? What actually a commission from an artist would be?
So I travel to Comic Cons up and down the East Coast, sometimes to the West Coast, and a lot of artists are there. Some of them work within the industry, some of them are independent artists, and you can ask them, hey, do you know who Black Panther is? Of course, they're going to say yes. And then, you would either have them draw a bust or a full body picture, or there's comics that have blank sketch covers. And I have a lot of those as well, whether it's Black Panther comics with a blank sketch cover, or Black Panther World of Wakanda, or an Avengers cover, or a Fantastic Four, because we know that Black Panther's had a lot of crossovers in those books. And I would ask somebody, like, let's just say Marcus Williams, shout out to him. He's an amazing artist. I actually had him do Black Panther with his original character side by side. And I thought it was just really cool. And again, one of one, he said he's never done anything like that before. And he was, really happy that I asked for that. So,
yeah. I've noticed, like, so when I got into the spaces, I kind of looked around, who collects what or whatever. Your collection of Black Panther is by far the best collection I've seen in the world. Like you said, from the original art that you have to even collector cards. That's something that most people kind of don't delve into when they get into comics. They go after the books, but they don't have the action figures. They don't have the the cards. They don't have the original art, the remarks from comics and stuff. So I just want to give a shout out to you, man. Like, hey, I respect it because this hobby isn't cheap to begin with, and it takes a lot of time to track down some of these pieces and stay consistent. And I respect the fact that you've stayed focused on exactly kind of what you want to go after. So, is there any particular like artists or writers that you recommend as far as Black Panther books? Because there's a lot of people who's touched the graces of it. Some good, some bad. What's some recommendations out there for people who just want to get into, Black Panther collecting?
First and foremost, Christopher Priest, his 90s Black Panther is what really, in my opinion, made the character who he is today. He became an A-lister after he wrote him. Street level genius, sure, but when he started going against different heroes, different villains, and he really, really showed the world that he's top tier in intelligence. His fighting skill is unmatched, pretty much, and I mean he garnered a lot of popularity after that. And then I also would recommend Reggie Hudlin's. I think that's volume 4. And his was in 2000s. Those two are my favorite two. So if anybody wanted to start somewhere, I would definitely tell them to start with Priest first, and then go ahead and transition over into Reggie Hudlin. And then the great thing about Priest, the Dora Milaje was first introduced there. So, there's a few key books in that series. And then with Reggie Hudlin, Shuri is introduced. So, two really, 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 really important books between those two series can be found in, those two writers.
Right. I can say probably between those two writers, you got the blueprint pretty much set in stone for what we see in the MCU today.
For sure.
On the big screen. Any artists you favor more over the others, or is the old school original Kirby still key?
I do not I'm not a big fan. I know people would hate me because I feel like it's safe to say that he's the greatest. But I just not a fan, man. Never been a fan. As you know, if I would point anybody in one direction about art, Billy Graham is going to be the king of all kings when it comes to art, especially Black Panther art. And nobody comes close. It is a dream of mine to be able to own a page of Jungle Action from Billy Graham. It's only a matter of time. It's going to happen. But I absolutely, if there's anybody who sits on top of the mountain for Black Panther art, it would be Billy Graham for sure.
So is there any advice that you can give maybe some of the new collectors out there that want to get started in this hobby? Not with Black Panther in particular, but just overall, just starting out fresh in this hobby. What advice would you give to a new collector out there?
First of all, start off with getting the things that you love. It's really easy to be impressionable in this hobby because there's so many avenues that you can take. Like just between you and I, even though we enjoy the same type of things, yours looks nothing like mine. Outside of the key historical books, you're a DC guy. If you take a further look into it, you're a static guy. You know what I'm saying? And so there's so many different ways, and I would just recommend people find a character or two that you like and just really just try to curate as much of that character, or it could be a writer. If you like a particular writer, try to get as much of his stuff as you can. I'm always going to encourage people to buy Black too. You know what I'm saying? Buy Black characters. Buy from Black folks, you know what I'm saying? Whether it's Billy Graham or Trevor Van Eaton or modern day Marcus Williams, you know what I'm saying? Just really support the people who look like you because they have it hard enough, and we need to see more of it. And what I've noticed over the last 5 years, the more that Black people have gotten these opportunities, the aesthetics of not only these characters, they change. They actually look like us when Black folks draw them. you know, just like I know, when we was coming up, you know, the black folks didn't, they had black skin, but they looked white. The facial features were white. You know what I'm
Some of them
saying?
were actually great. So I mean,
Right. So
we
I,
came
I
a
I
long
just,
way.
right. I think it's really important that, you know, just get what you love. And then from there, if you want to get into the investment side, uh, sure, there's plenty of communities. And I mean, I'm gonna shout yours out. Super Slaps Comics is dedicated specifically to the investment side. You know what I'm saying? And I'm in there, you're in there, and you know, I love to talk about that side just as much as I like to talk about black characters and the creators. So, you know, just start with something that you love, whether it's a character or a writer, and then go from there. Like, don't try to do too much. Start slow, learn. You know what I'm saying? Ask questions about people within these communities. It's small, but we're all open to the idea of trying to get people within the fold.
Understandable. I think a lot of people come into the hobbies and they kind of want to chase the next big thing, specking on this movie, that movie. So I think I agree with what you're saying. Like, elect what you love first, and then you'll actually see value from it. I think I learned from you most that actually collecting in black comics, the value actually held longer than some of these spec books that I kind of went after. And it was more the books that I actually wanted to go after. So once I kind of transitioned from kind of movie specking and flipping and stuff like that, and I kind of laser focus in and say, all right, well, let me go after, important black character here, there, whatever. I actually noticed the value of my collection actually ascending.
Look at Lobo. Look at Eben. Bro, when we first met each other, those were $100 books, man.
Yep.
Literally.
Yep.
These books, and high grade too. You know,
Yep.
I got my Lobo and my Eben. I probably got my Lobo for like $50. I got my Eben for $100. You can't.
And you're looking at 1,500 and up now for Evans. So,
right. And I mean, again, it was something that piqued my interest, and then there was a cultural component that I was tied to personally, so I didn't care, even though it was cheap at the time. But even if it wasn't cheap, you know how I am. If it's something that I want, I don't care what it is. It's something that I won't regret buying.
exactly.
I don't care about movies. You know what I'm saying? So, like, if I buy into spec, I'm going to have regrets. You know what I mean? So I just don't want to move like that. I want to be secure in the decisions that I make. And the security is knowing that, there's a lot of value tied into the cultural component.
And I want to reiterate that point. I'm a big believer that people should buy what they love. People should collect what they want without, interference of anyone else. But also, in that aspect of buying what you love, you don't feel buyer's remorse as much when, hey, the spec doesn't go the way you want. Because it's actually something that you're going to enjoy and love for yourself that you can pass down and teach others. So that will be one thing that I would add to new collectors. Just, kind of pay attention to that thin line and just don't try to chase a big thing. And like you said, just take your time in it. So I agree. So I know you got some heat for us, man. Like talking about it, all these Black Panther books and all this different original art. Anything you can show some covers out there or something that's people should kind of look for when they're out in them dollar bins or whatnot.
Dollar bins.
Hey, you never know, man. You might get lucky.
Look, man, come on, man. I don't do no dollar bins.
Hey, the people might get lucky out here in these streets.
Okay. So yeah, I tried to get some books that if people have seen before, they haven't seen in the grade. I tried to get some rare books, and then also, I'm mostly only dealing high grade books unless it's something that is almost non-existent. And so I'll start with an original art piece that I brought, and I just brought one. I have several. And again, I told you before we started this live, this is something that you'll appreciate, and you've seen it before. Oh shit, you can't even see it.
The green screen kind of distorted it a little bit.
How can we take the green screen down? Hold on. We're going to take the green screen. Virtual background. None. There we go.
There we go.
Okay. So this right here is Black Lightning number 11, page 10.
Okay.
by child prodigy Trevor Van Eaton. At the time when they was doing this book, he was 16 years old. I just think it's amazing, to Black artists to be almost non-existent, and one of the very first was a child. I mean, just to be able to hold something like this and understanding the history of it, just going back to that cultural component, like I had to have it. And then there's a really nice action sequence at the bottom right there. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, that's a dope piece. For
yep.
some of you who aren't familiar with Trevor Von Eaton, he has big ties to the artistic design of Black Lightning. He's co-created with Tony, so that's just another little keyway on that too.
Yep. And so I brought a bunch of comics. I tried to diversify the things that I brought, whether it's Silver Age or Bronze Age, all the ages, and then females, males, Marvel, DC. So I tried to just bring a bunch of different stuff. If people may not know, or some people may know. And so I brought this one right here. This is Fantastic Four 203. And so the significance of this book, 1979, is this is the first appearance of Willie Evans Jr. Willie Evans Jr. is actually the first reality warping Black mutant. So when you're talking about scaling power, because I know everybody likes to talk about what's the kid's name, Mr. Fantastic's child.
The daughter or the son?
The son. You know who I'm talking about. Franklin Richards.
Yep.
Everybody talks about, Franklin Richards and how strong he is, or Molecule Man and how strong he is. This guy is literally up there with them. The bad thing about this character, just like all of the other characters, I think if not in this same issue, the next issue he dies. You never see him again. So these Black characters, they don't have very long shelf lives, and my hope is that they bring them back sooner than later, because it's been a very, very, very long time. I mean, I wasn't even born in '79, so yeah.
I mean, there's always been an ugly side to comics, or Black comics specifically as well. I mean, they'll start off as Black characters, and then the public finds out, and they discontinue them, kill them off, change them white. Some they change the animals. I mean, it is what it is. But I mean, hey, if we don't collect this stuff and teach the lessons, how can we progress? And it's definitely gotten way better. I can say that.
Way better for sure. All right, so the next comic that I bought, I didn't want to bring Fantastic Four 52 because people see it all the time. The highest grade that I have in that book is a 9.0, but again, I have several copies. 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, 5.5, literally 8.0 and then a 9.0. But I actually brought his origin, Avengers 87, and I brought this one. This is a 9.8. So this is a pristine copy, and it also has white pages, 1971. So big book right here. I paid way too much money for it at the time, but I'm happy that I have it. Especially as an avid, Black Panther collector, I felt like I needed to have it in my collection.
Do you look at that one specifically more as the origin, or what about Fantastic Four 53? How do you compare those two?
So with Fantastic Four 53, I look at that more as his second appearance, and it doesn't delve into his origin fully like 87 does. Another key note, there's actually 3 books that are considered his origin. There's Jungle Action 8, that's also considered his origin, but first full origin is 87. And this book is solely dedicated to, his coming up and coming into who he is as a character, as Black Panther from T'Challa. So yeah. All right, so the next character that I bought, and I'm heavy on the Marvel. Again, me and Mike are polar opposite. He's the big DC guy. I'm the big Marvel guy. But this character here is just as old as T'Challa, and he came out in '66 as well. And so this is Avengers 32, the first appearance of Bill Foster. And this is in a 9/8 white pages as well. So this is a Silver Age book. He wasn't quite a superhero here, so this does not. This isn't considered his first appearance as a superhero, but just him just coming into existence. And this is 1966, so this is a pretty old book. Mike was there when I bought this, and how excited I was. So it was really cool to be able to get a Silver Age book in this condition with white pages. So I was really good to have it.
Because I doubt there's very few out there of that grade, that quality. I can't imagine there being more than 15 or so.
For sure. I think there are 12 of these last time I checked. And so here's a book that's just as scarce, and I fought with our brother Rico over this book, and I begged him, and I said, hey man, I need this book. And I thought that I was going to have a lot of pushback because Rico actually loves this character. But the problem is there's another character that I've loved even more within that character series. So this book right here is Luke Cage Power Man number 24. And this is the first appearance of Black Goliath. Bill Foster becomes Black Goliath in this book. And the census on this is really, really, really low. I think there are like 10 of these out there. And so, again, 9/8 white pages. Me and Rico had a long conversation about it. I said, bro, listen, I know you love Luke Cage, but I love Black Goliath. He was like, I'm going to stand down. And shout out to Rico,
appreciation,
right, for allowing me to go all out to get this book, man. And like I said, it's super scale. Look at the census. I was like, man, I got to get it now.
Yeah.
You know, you put a lot of pressure on yourself when you know these books are rare and certain grades.
They never come up again.
Right. This is literally the first time that I saw this book. I haven't seen it since.
And probably won't.
Right. So
let me ask something. If there's any artists out here watching this, can you please draw my man Black Goliath without getting his butt whooped on the cover? Please.
Like, we need that. Bring him back, because he's back from the dead from Civil War. I hope he is. Isn't he? Or no?
Yeah, I think so.
Right. Please. He ain't even got to be whooping up on nobody else. Just have him chilling or something.
I
think Black Goliath number 1 is the only book where he was actually not getting handled.
It's tragedy.
Right. And so here's a recent acquisition. One of the very first Black female characters in Marvel. This is Marvel Premiere 21, the first appearance of Misty Knight. So Mike has his inferior one in the background. But here's my beautiful 9/8 in white pages here. So yeah, there's Misty Knight there, 9/8 white pages. Really happy to have this one. This was another one that was been on my list for a couple of years, and when it finally showed up, I said, man, I gotta get it.
No book.
Keeping things female, again, this is a book that I wanted for a really long time. And this is actually the first Black female villain in Marvel. Black Mariah. This is her first appearance in the 9/8. My man Billy Graham on the pencils.
Shout out to Billy Graham, his daughter, his family out there.
Yes, sir. Here's a book that Mike will appreciate for sure. I feel like I'm the father of this book. Spectre number 54. Got this one in the 9/8. This book is weird. We talk about it all the time. It's rare for it to come up, and it's very expensive to be a modern book, even in this low market. This thing's going for $400, $500, $600, and I mean, because it just rarely shows up.
I think the current listings now are around about 700 or so.
Woo.
A lot of that is spec, and then a lot of it is also with the black cover on there. It's kind of hard to get a 9.8 out of that one. So,
right. So this is the first appearance in Origin of the new Mr. Terrific, Michael Hall.
I think everybody's pretty excited. Universally, black and white, everybody is pretty excited about him joining.
Yeah, he's the man. I love every cameo that I've seen him on the animated stuff. Just impressed. You know what I'm saying? All right, so here's a non Marvel DC book that is people love this book, and I understand why. So this is Black Boy Fly #1. Nobody knows what goes on in the interiors of this book, literally, because it's cardstock quality. And if you open this book up literally, it will damage the spine. I've asked owners of this book. I went on to ask the actual artist because me and him are Facebook friends, and I bought stuff from him. He said he doesn't. He said he doesn't know what goes on in the interior. So here's Black Boy Fly #1. I think this is limited to 1,000, 500. Okay, yeah. So this is super rare, high grade, and I'm really happy that I have this. This actually sent me down a rabbit hole. I have some art, some limited prints, and I have the Flynamic Duo on my list to get one of those vinyl dolls. I mean, just
the action figures.
Yes, sir. I got to have one of those. So yeah,
those
man.
sold out like that. I had my keyboard ready. I went in and
right,
no chance.
Let's see. I don't want to take up all the time. I think I'm gonna do 3 more books. I know y'all waiting on that one, but we're gonna let y'all wait. You know, the big boy. All right, so here's one. You know, shout out to all the indie black folks doing their thing. This is Bitterroot #1. I really enjoyed this comic book for a number of things. The actual physical comic book. Everybody that was contributed to this comic book has signed this cover, literally. Chuck Brown, David Walker, Sanford Green, all signed this thing. But what makes this comic outside of that, because I mean, I think it's really rare to have, you know, the whole creative team to sign a book. But more importantly, I got a whole commission of the entire family on the background from Sanford Green.
Yo, that's fire. I haven't met Sanford Green personally, but from everyone that's met him and talked to him, say, man, he's a real stand-up, humble guy, man. So, hey, that's dope right there.
This guy, I remember when Sanford Green had a table with pretty much nothing on it. I think he may have done 1 or 2 major works. He just had got a gig for Power Man and Iron Fist. I think this was around 2010.
Yeah.
I approached him. He had Gamecock stuff on, so you already know that was a connection. You know, go Gamecocks. And I was just like, hey, brother, what's going on? And he was like, ain't nothing. Nobody was at the table at the time. Literally, nobody was at the table. And I was just like, I see that you got these comic books because it was Power Man and Iron Fist. And I think that was the only thing that he had on his display. And he was like, yeah, you know, this book is coming out in a couple of months, a month or so. I don't know what he was saying, something about it. And I was just like, oh, that's cool. I never knew that, you know, black guys did. And then he put me on to Ron Wilson. He was like, listen, I'm not the first person who's done, you know, these types of books. And I mean, this is me being completely green at the time because I'm just getting back into it. And he was just like, listen, man, I'm happy that you stopped by. I'm more happy that you're actually interested in what I have going on, especially as a brother. And he did a commission of Luke Cage for me on a power. It was, I think it was Power Man and Iron Fist at the time. David Walker had did that book, and ever since then we've had this crazy relationship, man. That commission that you saw on that Bitterroot book, he did it for free.
Nice.
Yeah, so like. He knows me my first name.
Right there alone set you out from any other copy of that book.
Right. And I told him, and it was crazy because he was just like, I just want you to have it. I said, no, man, I want to pay you. And he was just like, all right, well, give me $25. I said, bro, you are a published Marvel artist. You want $25 for it? So I gave him $100. You know what I'm saying? I was like, look, man, I really appreciate you, man. I want you to go further, man. I believe in you. You know, just all of these things. And I was just excited that he was doing this thing.
Yeah.
And ever since then, man, you know, we it's like a big bro. You know what I'm saying? I'll give you 2 more books. And I'm gonna wrap it up, even though I got a ton more. This character right here, I have no idea why I have so much of his stuff. I don't like the character, but for some reason or another, I feel obligated to collect all of his stuff, whether it's cards, original art, comic books, or anything in between. So I figured I'd bring this book out. This is the first appearance of Jim Rhodey in a 9/8, and it's also signed by Bob Lathan. This is 1979 right here. I think on the census, there's only 2 that are CGC signature series at this grade. So this is a pretty rare book, not only in this grade, but also to be signed as well. And I got this a really, really long time ago. I think I may have paid $200 for it. And there's no way in the world you're gonna get this for $200 now. But
it's almost that much for the signature now.
Right. So I was really happy that, you know, I stuck with this character, even though I don't like him. And I have a ton of his stuff, like all of his stuff.
I'm sure all the Secret Invasion fans out there been watching on Disney Plus kind of feel the same. So
right.
Not liking Rhodey right now.
So last but not least, I brought the holy grail of modern comics with me. I just think it's important for a Black person to show that, you know, we too have these types of books. You know what I'm saying? And my story about attaining this book isn't like other people's stories that has gotten it in the last 10, because I'm not spending the money for that kind of book that it's been, you know, going for in the last 10 years. But this book right here, I got literally off the shelf for $30 in Hampton. I remember it like it was yesterday. And at the time when I bought it, I think it was like $150. But the guy had them. It was like a really like ransacked comic book shop that I used to go to all the time, and I loved it because it was ransacked, and he couldn't keep up with everything. But he had this particular book sandwiched in between a whole lot of other books, and it didn't have a price tag on it, right? And so what I did was my eyes lit up, because I'm thinking like, man, I can get this $150 book for maybe cover price. You know what I'm saying? Because there won't no price on it. And so my eyes lit up, and I was like, shit, okay. Well, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get like 10 other books, and I'm gonna just put them all up there. It's all going for cover, and maybe I can get it for cover price. So he went through the comics. He saw this one, and he was just like, I forgot to put a price on it. And I'm just like, he gonna charge me, like he gonna charge me $150 for it. You know what I'm saying? And I was just like, whatever. You know, this is at the time when I was really into Black characters, and I knew that this character is somebody that I wanted. And so he put a $30, $29.99. I said, well, shit, all right, we good. You know what I'm saying? All right. So you know, I bought all my comic books, man, and this book is my most valuable comic book. It has peaked at $42,000, I think. And it settled all the way down, but it's still exponentially more than I've ever thought that I would have in value. This character right here is probably the most popular character in all of comics, Marvel, DC, whatever. And so this is Ultimate Fallout number 4, the variant, first appearance of Miles Morales. So this is the baby, you know,
that's like modern gold right there.
Right. This is better than gold. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, again, this is the driving point. Collect what you love. You know what I'm saying? Because that's all this was. I bought this for the love, literally, of the culture. You know, there was a cultural component. At the time, I wanted Black characters. And 10, 15 years ago, they were scarce. So it was easy for me to say, look, I want this. And so even though I have this, I also have cover A, I have the origin books, I have all of that stuff in 9/8, and I probably paid $5-6 for those books. I gave a few of those out to people, cover A's. I sold one to Omar for like $90.
Oh, they saying thank you. They love you right now.
Right. So like, again, you can never go wrong when you collect things that you love. And it just so happens that I love blackness and I love comic books. So I just merged the two together, and it paid off more than anything. Like, I could buy a brand new, real nice car with just that comic book that I paid $30 for.
For sure. I'm gonna tuck my little 9.8 of cover A away right now. You know, small chain up there. But listen, man, look, I appreciate you coming out with me today, sitting down with this discussion. I didn't try to reach out to, you know, this person, that person, third. And you're the first brother that stepped up and actually said, bro, I'll sit down and talk to you. So I want to thank you for that.
No, man. Anything for the culture. If it's going to help push us forward, get more people into the fold, more importantly, just expose these characters and people like you and I showing that we can be passionate about these things. If we want to do this again tomorrow, I'll do it.
Anything you want to plug? Any sites?
Yes, I want to plug myself. I want to plug myself. So my Instagram handle is at FLOODDR. I'm a fitness trainer out in Norfolk, Virginia. So if you
on the shirt.
Yeah, for sure. Fitness First is the name of my gym. I have a privately owned gym out there. So if anybody needs some fitness training, I'm your guy. Hit me up. I can help you out. Pointers or whatever the case may be. Or if you just want to talk about comic books, I'm good with that too. Like, we got several groups where we just literally talk about this kind of stuff every day, whether it's just for the love or the investment side. I'm here for it, for sure.
All right. Well, once again, hey, thank you for coming on. Everybody out there, make sure you like, share, subscribe, and appreciate y'all taking this time with us today.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.